Well, welcome to episode 73, or mayhaps 74. We'll talk about that momentarily, of the Balancing Act podcast. I'm Dan Strafford. Today, we're kicking off our new mini-series on decision-making. In this series, we're going to explore the importance of developing the ability to make better, more timely decisions in a business setting. Now, Andy, it seems like you need to make a decision on a holiday episode, so this may be 73, maybe 74. We'll leave that to you. No pressure. Holidays are busy.
Yeah.
We can recognize that.
Yeah, we're it's late November 2022 and we're recording this episode, and I've got a call out to some folks from the Kaplan Educational Foundation to see if we can't do a special holiday episode that would drop right between Christmas and New Year's here in the United States. So fingers crossed that I can get them to say yes and come on the show.
And here I thought it was Santa Claus. So I am proven incorrect. I guess he's hard to get on podcasts this time of year. I understand. Okay, we'll work on that for next year. Next year goals, 2023, jolly old Saint Nick for the holiday episode. But
all right.
Andy, as we dive in here, talking decision-making, why decision-making as the topic for this mini-series, and why do this now?
Yeah, well, it's episode either 73 or 74. We've got a critical mass of conversations around topics like stewardship, financial acumen, data literacy, accountability, storytelling, and all of those things center around ultimately a decision. And decisions are something that leaders have to do all the time. And we don't tend to talk enough about the quality of decisions, how decisions happen within organizations, and how to live with decisions once they are made. So this mini series, we've got some really, really top-notch folks joining us. For not like we don't have top-notch folks joining us for the other things that we talk about, but boy, we've got some real high-powered folks joining us as guests following this episode to talk about their relationship with decision-making, and that's really what we're driving at here.
Before the show and previously, we've talked about your view on the life cycle of a decision. Can you please walk the listeners through, and even me, the arc of a decision?
Yeah, so decisions are, that word arc, I think, is very important because there is a flow. There's this life cycle where you start with an idea and then you model that idea, which is very, very important. We're going to talk about modeling quite a bit today. Those models then move into a proposal. You get feedback for your proposal. You might then experiment against the proposal and then use the outcomes of those experiments to make a decision. We need investment for that decision. And then there's follow through, which is a part of decision-making that tends to get forgotten quite a bit, and then feedback and ultimately maintenance of that whole process. So from idea to fruition of a product, a service, or a people management conversation, the two things that I would really stress with that arc that I just described is that modeling and then follow through are two things that tend to get the short shrift.
As a leader of a mid-sized business, you had to make, obviously, a myriad of decisions throughout the day, throughout the week, throughout the year. What skills did you rely on most to make the best decisions that you could?
Well, first, I'd talk about delegation as a leader. What really separates leaders from managers, one of the things is that a leader is able to appropriately delegate work. And if you're not able to delegate after a decision is made and rely and trust on people around you to carry that decision through, then there's going to be a problem. The second thing that I would talk about is the notion of compartmentalization. Leaders make so many decisions in such a short period of time and a broad array of decisions that it's important to be able to compartmentalize, to be able to put those decisions into a box and then come back and revisit them. We'll talk about compartmentalization a little bit more later. Probably most important, however, is agility and active listening. Too often we close our ears. We've got this great idea in our heads, and then we don't get requisite feedback. We don't do the experimentation. We don't build the models. We don't listen to the people around us, and we carry a fixed mindset into the decision-making process, which is going to lead to challenges in almost all cases. And then finally, I would say that the skill of consensus building, being able to work across diverse groups and get individuals and teams on board and make key compromises during the process. If you've got a my way or the highway type of a leadership strategy, decision-making in the long run is going to be very, very difficult for you.
That all makes a ton of sense. But what advice do you have for colleagues and team members to help guide organizational leadership to make better decisions?
Yeah, well, this is all about the model and the pitch, or in other words, storytelling. So a leader, so here in this particular part of the arc of this episode, we're talking about what colleagues and team members can do to help leadership make better decisions. And as a leader, what I want to see is a scenario-based model for whatever is being put on the table. There's never just one answer for the potential outcomes of a particular idea that you're trying to pitch. So do a very simple high, medium, low scenario model and build a functional financial model that you bring along with you to the pitch. If you don't bring data and the financials into the pitch, I'm going to send you right back to the drawing board. So the model, scenario-based model, that uses all the financial acumen that we talked about previously, gets the finance folks involved, and it's really a team sport here. And then you come with that to the pitch. Make sure you refine your storytelling skills because here you're going to use those human skills, the financial, business, and data acumen that we've talked about previously to build those models and then make the pitch.
Everyone strives to be the decision maker, right? Maybe not everyone. People who want to move up in organizations or start their own business. That's sort of what I've noticed in my career. But what are the hardest decisions? What are the ones that maybe stick out to you as the hardest ones to make as a leader?
By far and away, the answer is making decisions about people.
Sure.
And here I'm talking about hiring and primarily the firing end of the equation. When you're talking about people, you're not just talking about an individual. You're talking about a family. You're talking about their extended community. And viewed through that lens, that puts a great deal of both pressure and urgency on making the best decisions possible about your teams, because even if you're just the most cold and financially calculating individual on the planet, we know through data and research that it costs more to go out and hire somebody new to replace somebody who's maybe not performing at the level that you want them to. That's the quote unquote easy way in many cases. But for those that are cold and calculating, you still need to be thinking very, very carefully, even about that human capital replacement function. So people decisions are definitely the hardest.
Makes sense. When you said the most, Mr. Potter from It's a Wonderful Life came into my head, and wondered his transactional history beyond the movie of how he dealt with people underneath him. But we're going to step aside for a break. On the other side, we're going to get back to talking about the skill of compartmentalization. More on that after this.
Thanks for listening to the Balancing Act podcast. I'm Andrew Tempe. In my book, Balancing Act, Teach, Coach, Mentor, Inspire, I explore the characteristics required of leaders who must find balance between strength and vulnerability, confidence and selflessness, passion and measure, and leadership and followership. Balancing Act is available today at Amazon.com.
We are back. Before the break and in the first half of this episode, you referred to the skill of compartmentalization as a necessary component to the decision-making process. Can you maybe dive in a little bit deeper, elaborate a little bit more on why it's so important?
Yeah, I've seen leaders that just get paralyzed. They get racked with second guessing themselves about the decisions that they've made. And as a leader, as we discussed before, you're going to make many, many decisions. So the way that I was able to sleep at night is being able to put decisions into a box because theory transforms into reality, and you have to be able to live with the results. And if you're constantly having every decision you make sitting in your working memory and tussling with yourself about, gosh, was that the right decision? Did I make the right call? You're just going to drive yourself bananas. So being able to compartmentalize and reduce the amount of emotional energy that you're spending on the results of your decisions, and at the right time, in the right setting, pull that decision out of the box, analyze it, focus on, did we run the right experiments? Did we put enough data behind this decision? Are we being agile, and are we really listening to our customers? And then put it back in the box, let it run for a little bit more, and then pull it back out. That's a very, very helpful was very helpful for my mental well-being as a leader.
It makes a lot of sense and is a skill in and of itself. Clearly, that as we're discussing it here. Also, earlier in the conversation, you outlined the skills that are necessary to make effective decisions, the idea of delegation, active listening, and so on. Do you rely on specific tools to guide your own decision-making process?
Yeah, so here it will be a gratuitous pitch for my forthcoming book, The Balanced Business. All of the decisions that you make as a leader must have a frame that those decisions sit within. Otherwise, you're just going to be making ad hoc decision after ad hoc decision. Nothing will really connect, and both your people and your customers will be able to see directly the bouncing around, flavor of the day, shiny ball. We talked talk a lot about shiny balls.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's interesting. Let's do that. Oh, that's interesting. Let's do that. And your people just get pulled all over the place. So in the Balanced Business, I talk about the foundation of your business being its purpose. And really spending a serious amount of time defining the purpose of the business. Then we move on to vision. Where are we going? Where are we headed in the long term? Then we introduce culture, which is the aspirational culture of the organization built on both values and behaviors. Then we have a plan for change within our organization. We put learning and development front and center. We know exactly what we're doing, how we're going to differentiate through our quote unquote it. And then we put together our master and our annual goals. So both our strategic and our annual goals are the result of that strategy exercise of purpose, vision, culture, a plan for change, a plan for learning, and what we do. So that becomes the frame so that every decision we make, we can go back and we can say, okay, does this fit with our purpose? Does it fit with our vision? Does it fit with our culture? If the answer is no, then let's ask why and then change course if necessary.
That makes a lot of sense and ties together a lot of the discussion points we've had here and you've had throughout the podcast, to be quite honest, around how we get to this point in our business management and in our companies. But to close out this conversation and obviously lead into more, what's one thing we don't often correlate with decision making that should be obvious but just isn't?
Yeah, and that the answer to that from my perspective is that doing nothing is a decision in and of itself. Purposeful delay is a decision. And those two things typically align with passive-aggressive behaviors within the organization. And passive aggressiveness, and I'm pointing the finger back at myself. I have been very passive aggressive in my past, and I try to avoid that at all costs because it's a surefire way to erode corporate culture. So the key here is knowing when to say no. The decision of no is extraordinarily important. If we're saying yes to everything, then how do we differentiate ourselves? All of a sudden, everything but the kitchen sink is important, and our priorities are difficult to rank order. So as a leader, know when to say no. As a manager, know when to say no. As an individual contributor, if you're in a healthy organization, you should have an enabled voice and be able to contribute to the conversation. And sometimes it's very appropriate for individual contributors to join the conversation and say, this is a decent idea, but we really shouldn't be doing this. And here are the reasons why. And this is my recommendation for where we go from here. So, Dan, like I like to do at the end of our time together.
Yes, sir.
What did we leave on the table? What did we miss today? What do you have? What do you know about decision making that you'd like to offer for our listeners? You know a lot. You know a lot about decision making. You're a girl, Dad. You know a lot about decision making.
I've been often in the past when we've tied your business viewpoints back to parenting, and I think the yes and no aspect of parenting is such a strong part of it, right? When to say yes and when to say no, and when to pause, when to have those ability to say not right now, but with intention, right? Not right now. I don't feel like dealing with you, child. No, not right now, because we need to do other things first. We need to, and that's the same in business. Hey, that vision you have is great, and our product is going to be so much better for it in 2 years, but we're not there yet. We need to do these things to get there. I think is so important. I would say the biggest thing for me around decision making and previous stops in my career is the transparency around it all. If you are not the one making the decision, having people who are in charge who can, one, explain the why and be transparent about the decisions made. Not everyone's going to love every decision.
Yep.
And that's fine. We just need to trust, one, the company's best is at the center of those decisions. Two, as much as can be contemplated, it's the people are in the center of that decision, right? That they're going to make sure. And three, and you talked around this and to it, but when a decision is made, it's not fleeting. It's not something that is fly by night because, again, the shiny balls, the butterfly, or whatever you want to talk about flying by. It's not, oh, we can try this for a little while and then it disappears. Because I've been in organizations that do that in the past where we're going to, be an agile organization. Okay, great. 6 weeks go by and there's no more 3D, there's no more lean, there's no more agile. It disappears because it didn't work. Decisions can be tough and decisions can be right, but still hard to go through. And so I think the transparency around it all is just so very important.
Yeah, well, that's thanks for bringing all that up, because that's the why behind aligning the decision-making process around purpose, vision, culture, your plan for change, which is absolutely essential to decision-making, because every decision is going to lead to some kind of change, and change management is a key to a healthy healthy organization. So as an individual contributor, if you're looking at decisions that are being made and you can tie them back to that very transparent purpose, vision, culture, the what we do, then you go, oh, okay, I can see it. But if leadership is making decisions that aren't congruent with those things, or those things don't exist, then you're living in chaos.
Yeah, Matt. Or you've talked town halls so much and just the communication, if they're not communicated properly and you have to go digging for the connection, and that just erodes trust and it erodes culture and really changes up how individual contributors and middle managers feel about the company they work for. But a great discussion as always, and Andy, I appreciate them so much to push the way I think about things. And Andy and I candidly have talked about a business I'm trying to start, and I'm not the best with framework. I'm not the best with frameworks, but you're right. There needs to be. I always use the idea of bumper bowling. I don't know if you've ever seen kids go bowling and they pull the bumpers out.
Oh yeah.
You got to put them out sometimes. Keep the ball out of the gutter. Keep it going down to the end of the lane, and put that structure in place ahead of time so decisions are transparent and can be communicated properly. I appreciate it. I get it. I'm going to do it. But for those listening and maybe watching on YouTube, Andrew Temte is the channel on YouTube. This podcast, The Balancing Act, available across all of your podcasting apps. What we ask from you is that you you leave a comment, you share on social media, you tag Andy on LinkedIn, you tag him across the other platforms as well when you are sharing, and get in touch, via the website, via LinkedIn, and connect and help grow this community that Andy's building through these podcasts, through his books, and so much more. Appreciate everyone listening. Until next time, you've been listening to The Balancing Act.